Able, present, ready. Farah doesn't flinch. He's Hacker.
Talk about a fried egg. I lasted about 5 minutes out there. I said, to heck with this. I'll do this in the morning. And I don't have any inside information. The lady that did it, she got in there. She made it happen.
And he doesn't shy away from opinion.
And I do enjoy drinking cold beer at ballparks. So if that makes me a baseball fan, then I'm a diehard baseball fan.
It's Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Oh, yeah. Friday of the Sweet 16. There were a couple of good ones last night. You had Purdue basically at the buzzer over Texas. You had Nebraska inexcusably. I've never seen this before. Have 4 defenders on the court coming out of a timeout. Iowa obviously had a guy wide open, which salted that game away for the Hawkeyes to advance. And then the last 2 games last night were pretty dominant efforts. Illinois over Houston. Houston. Your opportunity was right there in your own hometown without Florida. After the Gators get eliminated in your region, you have a chance to get back to the Final Four by winning 2 games in Houston, and you can't get out of the Sweet 16. And then Arizona is just a monster. Arkansas just simply did not have any answers for them. So we know that it will be Arizona and Purdue tomorrow, with the winner going to the Final Four. We know it will be someone out of the Big Ten, as it will be Illinois and Iowa tomorrow, with the winner going to the Final Four. They will be joined by 4 more teams tonight. 2 games already ongoing. It's a good one right now in the East region. Duke and St. John's under a minute to go in the first half. Duke leads 39-37. Look at Alabama, very early, but the Crimson Tide, an early 11-4 lead on Michigan. 15:38 to go in the first half. And then later on tonight, Michigan State and UConn, and Tennessee and Iowa State. So with that, a very good Friday evening to you, Jacksonville. We're glad you're with us to close out the week here on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM with Aaron Williams, the Hacker Ryan Green with you. Glad you are choosing to spend your Friday evening with us. A Friday evening where we will talk a little Florida Gator basketball, a little college basketball, as the Gators, amidst a horrible loss 5 days ago, have gotten more good news. We already found out yesterday that 6th man of the year in the SEC, Urban Klafsar, is coming back to Florida. We found out yesterday that Boogie Flan is coming back to Florida. And today, another piece of the Gator roster from this year announced he was coming back to Florida. We will let you know who that is in just a little bit. Certainly waiting for the big ones like Thomas Houck, like Ruben Chinyelu, like Alex Condon. Those decisions will probably take a little longer to ultimately be decided. We'll also talk a little Jacksonville Jaguars. Do you realize that next week we enter the month of April? In fact, I believe Wednesday, right, is April Fool's Day, April 1st. And this is no fool. This is no joke. Once we enter the month of April, NFL teams come back to work. In fact, if you have a first-year head coach, if you're the Tennessee Titans, the Atlanta Falcons, the Baltimore Ravens, the New York Giants, the Miami Dolphins, right, the Arizona Cardinals, the Las Vegas Raiders, there was a bunch of them with first-year head coaches, the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you have a first-year head coach, you can begin your off-season workout program a week from Monday, April the 6th. As for the Jacksonville Jaguars and every other team without a first-year or first-time, a new staff, not necessarily first year, but a new staff. If you got the same staff from a year ago, you can come back on April the 20th. So next Wednesday, we can officially say that NFL teams get back to work this month. In the month of April, the NFL draft will be in April, and OTAs, rookie mini camps will begin in the month of May. So we are getting pretty close to getting back on the field in some capacity during the NFL offseason. And with that, I want to talk about a saying that I keep hearing from the Gator basketball point of view, but I want to relate it to the Jacksonville Jaguars. We keep hearing run it back, right? The Florida Gators are going to run it back. And you hear every team say that when somebody announces their intentions to return. We're going to run it back. Well, I want to translate that and correlate that with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Year one was phenomenal under Liam Cohen and James Gladstone. Where are we going to be in year number two? As always on Hacker After Dark, we do kick it off with a big deal of the night and Aaron Williams. Let's do that right now.
Time now for the big deal of the night.
What's the big deal?
What is the big deal? No big deal. It is a big deal.
On Hacker After Dark.
You know, Liam Cohen, when we got that little video that Jaguars.com put out last month, the first coaches meeting of the 2026 offseason, I believe it was a week after the Super Bowl. And Liam Cohen in that meeting, if you did not see it on Jaguars.com, it was about a minute or so long. And Cohen was talking with all the coaches. Campanile was in there. Yadinsky was in there. The entire coaching staff. Talking about, look, we set the standard in year one. But year two is the most important year. Year two is vital. Because in year two, do you come back to planet Earth? Are you a one-hit wonder? Or is this something that can be the norm here in Jacksonville? Is the standard that was set in 2025 going to be the standard moving forward here in Jacksonville? And I bring that up for this reason. And I mentioned this towards the end of the year, but as we get deeper into the offseason, and as the guys begin to come back to work next month, and as we get back on the field for OTAs in the middle portion of May, I think this narrative is important. Jaguar fans, we've been here before. 2017, Doug Marrone's first year as the full-time head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. They not only won the division in 2017, they not only went to the playoffs in 2017, they were a Miles Jack wasn't down incident from maybe going to the Super Bowl in Doug Marrone's first year as the Jaguar head coach. Fast forward to 2022, Doug Peterson's first year as the Jaguar head coach. They not only won the division, they not only went to the playoffs, they had the second largest comeback in the history of the NFL postseason, coming back from 27 down to beat Herbert and the Chargers on that magical night here in Jacksonville. And then what happened in the years after that? In 2018, Doug Marrone's second year, the Jaguars started 3-1. And then everything went to heck after that. 2023, Doug Peterson's second year. What happened? The Jaguars started that year 8-3. But then injuries happened and everything went to heck after that. So now here we are, right? Everybody's like, oh, this is different. This is different. Is it? Liam Cohen's first year, just like Doug Marrone's first year, just like Doug Peterson's first year. You win the AFC South, you go to the playoffs. Amazingly enough, unlike 17 and 22, the Jaguars did not win a playoff game in 25. But everybody's talking about, well, no, it's here, right? I mean, it feels different. It's here. We're not going to go back. We're not going to turn back into the Jacksonville Jaguars that most of us have known over the last 10, 15, 20 years. Is that the case? Why will 2026 be different than 2018? Why will 2026 be different than 2023? I mean, Doug Peterson had a Super Bowl in his past. Won the division in year one. There was a huge amount of excitement for 2023. Remember, Calvin Ridley was here. Ridley wasn't even on the 2022 team. But the Jaguars just couldn't get it done in year two with Doug Peterson. In 2018, after coming off the AFC Championship loss to New England, the Jaguars started 3-1, right? You had Ramsey and Ngakoue and Campbell and all of these guys, Telvin Smith, right? All these ridiculous players, Fournette, the boat. Just didn't work out. All the expectations in 2018 and in 2023 were crushed. In 2018, they were crushed in the month of October. In 2023, we at least got to Thanksgiving before the bottom fell out. So now here we are coming off another first-year coach here in Jacksonville in Liam Cohen, winning the division. Another first-year head coach in Jacksonville making the playoffs. Do you realize the Jaguars have made the playoffs 3 times since 2007? 3 times in basically the last 2 decades. And all 3 times they made the playoffs over the last 20 years. It was the first year of Doug Marrone, it was the first year of Doug Peterson, and it was the first year of Liam Cohen. That's pretty crazy to think about that. Marrone never got back to the playoffs, was fired. Peterson never got back to the playoffs, was fired. Liam Cohen, verdict is still out. We don't know. I will tell you this, and I have never been ultra positive, sunshine and rainbows, harmonica, marshmallows, kumbaya Jaguar guy. I try not to do that. Some people are. I'm not. I choose to be more realistic. Some of you find that negative, and I'm sorry for that. I like to call it reality. I do think this time around, you got a couple of things going for you. Number one, no offense to Doug Marrone, he was a tough, physical, offensive line guy, right? I don't necessarily know how much Blake Bortles was getting developed under he and that staff. Doug Peterson in 22? Yeah, I think they developed Trevor to an extent, sure. But Peterson already had his Super Bowl. He already got to the mountaintop of coaching. And I'm not going to say he mailed it in here, but let's be real. When you get to the mountaintop, are you as hungry after that as you were before that? Do you put in the extra work and the extra hours? Or do you let Press Taylor call plays? I don't know. Seems to be maybe a little bit of both with Peterson and what happened here. I like Doug, but the Press Taylor thing was ridiculous. And then hiring Ryan Nielsen was a disaster. So now here we are with Liam Cohen. Liam Cohen's got that, bravado to him. Got that moxie to him. Got that Robert Saleh, don't put my name in your mouth type attitude.
Certain swagger.
There's a swagger, there's an aura about Liam Cohen that if you're a Jaguar fan, I don't know how you can't just love it. A lot of people don't. He is one of those guys, honestly, that if he's your coach, you think it's great. If he's not your coach, it probably rubs you the wrong way sometimes. That's why I'm thankful that he's the coach here in Jacksonville. He's got the it factor, right? Every time I see that guy on McAfee or whatever, even in press conference settings, I just like him. I'm just a fan of Liam Cohen. And I do think that matters, that attitude, that bravado, that I'm going to show you. Because remember, Jacksonville was the only team that interviewed Liam Cohen last year. That's still amazing to think about. A man that finished second in NFL Coaching of the Year, his first year as an NFL head coach, a man that took an organization from 4-13 to 13-4, a man that turned Trevor Lawrence into a top 5 MVP candidate, was not interviewed by anybody else except the Jacksonville Jaguars. That is crazy to think about. Unlike 2018, Doug Marrone's second year, unlike 2023, Doug Peterson's second year, I'm not concerned the Jaguars are going to plummet. Now, are they going to win 13 games again? Well, that's hard. That's hard. When you go back-to-back 13-win seasons, that's hard to do. That's hard for anybody to do. But what I don't think is going to happen is what happened in 2018. I don't think you're going to go from 13 wins to 5 wins. Unless you have a catastrophic number of injuries and unforeseen things happen that, again, I can't see happening right now. Will it be different? That's to be determined. But I agree with Liam Cohen and what he said in that staff meeting last month. Year 2 is the most important year. It is a vital year to prove that year 1 was not a fluke. Year 1, on the surface, appeared to be a fluke for Marrone and his staff. They never got back to that. Year 1 appeared to be a fluke for Peterson and his staff here. They never got back to that. Will year 1 be a fluke for Liam Cohen? I would tend to doubt it. I'm going to put my faith in Liam and James Gladstone and Tony Boselli that the standard moving forward is the standard that we saw in 2025. More on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Kevin Clark does terrific work for both ESPN and Omaha Productions, the Manning Cast, all that good stuff. Kevin's going to join us here coming up in less than 10 minutes. I do want to keep you updated on the Sweet 16. They have gone to halftime in the East Region. St. John's leads Duke. Surprise there. Rick Pitino and the Johnnies, a 40-39 lead over Duke at halftime. And Alabama still on top of Michigan. They're about 9 minutes to go in the first half. Alabama 25, Michigan 22. Again, both SEC teams got eliminated last night. Texas at the buzzer, and then Arkansas was just no match for Arizona. Only 2 SEC teams remain, Alabama and then Tennessee tonight as they take on Iowa State. The other game tonight is Michigan State and UConn. That tip is scheduled for 9:45. Tennessee and Iowa State, a good old-fashioned 10-10 tip here on the East Coast of the United States. I guess it's good it's a Friday night, because if you're a Tennessee Volunteer in Knoxville, or if you're an Iowa State Cyclone in Ames, you're looking for a good old-fashioned 10-10 Eastern Standard Time tip for your Sweet 16 battle tonight in the NCAA tournament. Back into the Jacksonville Jaguars, Kevin Clark of ESPN and Omaha Productions. He joins us next on a Friday night in Jacksonville, Florida. We're glad you're with us. Heading into the weekend, we're here with you till 10 o'clock. It's Hacker After Dark.
The nominees for Best Supporting Actress are
Lauren Brooks and Taylor Dahl with Tom McManus on Helmets and Heels. 2 to 4 weekdays on 1010XL.
Blue here for the Blue Crab House, located right off of San Jose. It's on Jewington Creek Road. They've been around since 1996. Indoor-outdoor dining. Also, takeout is available at the Blue Crab House. Open 4:30 to 9, Tuesday through Saturday. Sunday, noon until 9. Remember, Tuesday, $2 margaritas. Wednesday, $1 oyster night. How about the blue crabs? How about my personal favorite, the Canadian snow crabs? Whatever it is that you fancy, you get it right there. The Blue Crab House.
Did you know that an annual coating inspection can extend the life of your building by years? Catching early signs like hairline cracks, fading, and moisture intrusion helps prevent costly repairs down the road and keeps your property looking its best. Our team at Performance Painting helps you stay ahead of maintenance with professional inspections and long-lasting coating solutions. Protect your building, protect your budget. Go to performance-painting.com to schedule a free inspection. Performance Painting, prepare, protect, preserve.
Performance painting.
Don't miss the Bari Breakdown with Dr. George Bari on XL Primetime, Wednesdays around 1:35 for the latest in sports injuries from all the big names in the game. Who's MIA, who's coming back? Dr. George Bari on XL Primetime, Wednesdays at 1:35 on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
If you are an experienced electrician looking for your next big opportunity, look no further than the Miller Electric Company, a trusted name in the industry for over 96 years. At Miller Electric, we tackle the biggest projects in the city, offering you the chance to showcase your skills on a grand scale. We believe in rewarding hard work with the best pay, top-notch benefits, and an unbeatable culture where people actually care about each other. Take your career to new heights with Miller Electric Company. Apply today at millercareers.com. Miller Electric, an equal opportunity employer.
What Major League Baseball teams have never won a World Series?
When you file a claim with Southern Oak Insurance, we schedule one of our trusted vendors to work directly with you, which means a faster claim resolution. Find out more at southernoak.com.
Our family protecting yours. Southern Oak Insurance.
There are 5 Major League Baseball teams that have never won a World Series: Colorado, Milwaukee, San Diego, Seattle, and Tampa Bay.
Southern Oak Insurance. Our family protecting yours.
Hey, Jacksonville DDH. Dreamfinders Danny Hicken here with the scoop from Dreamfinders Homes, your national builder of the year. We've got first-year interest rates as low as 2.99% in homes in 20-plus communities throughout Northeast Florida. If you're house hunting, make sure your first pick Dreamfinders Homes, the proud official home builder of the PGA Tour, the Florida Gators, and your Jacksonville Jaguars. Visit dfhsalesevent.com today and tell them Dreamfinders Danny sent you.
Hey, it's Travis from Cannons of Jacks. Thank you for trusting us for 55 years of custom welding fabrication and vehicle towing accessories. When you need a trailer hitch for the family car, a gooseneck for the company truck, or even RV towing options, call us at Cannons. We can do a bumper hitch, fifth wheel hitch, anything for safe, reliable towing. Come to Cannons of Jacks, where service is our #1 priority and we treat our customers as we like to be treated. Check us out online, cannonsofjacks.com.
I'm with Greg from Cycles of Jacksonville. Honda going off-road. They've got it all. 2-wheel, 4-wheel. What's happening, my man?
Man, they've got the Talon. They got the Talon R. They've got the Talon Live Valve. You're looking to do some farm work, they've got the Pioneer 700, Pioneer 1000. Legendary Honda reliability. Super fun. Dirt bikes, of course, always amazing. More podium finishes than any other company. Can't go wrong there.
And families love it when they go off-road with Honda. Check them out. Cycles of Jacksonville on Atlantic near Regency. CyclesofJacksonville.com.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. When it's game time, Farah doesn't flinch. Here's another call on the 1010XL hotline, driven by Key Buick GMC, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. Boy, there's a lot going on. We're less than a month away from the National Football League draft. Of course, the Jaguars have 11 draft picks, 4 in the top 100. We are in the midst of March Madness as well. Unfortunately, that no longer includes the Florida Gators, but we're in the midst of the Sweet 16, the Elite 8, and on the doorstep of the Final Four. And the NBA postseason is right around the corner. It will include the Orlando Magic. I guess the question there is, how long will it include the Orlando Magic? Let's talk about all of it with Kevin Clark of Omaha Productions and ESPN, always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Kevin, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Really fired up to be here.
Hey, Kevin, thank you for the time. And before we begin, man, I read something on social media that I thought was very, very cool. Now, here in Jacksonville, we have a very large UCF alumni base. In fact, I got a lot of friends that graduated from the University of Central Florida down there in Orlando. And UCF has set up a scholarship in honor of your father. Explain that to us up here in Jacksonville, because I thought it was very, very interesting.
Yeah, so my dad passed away in October. Even though he wasn't from Florida originally, basically a lifelong Floridian once he got here, just loved the state, loved everything about it. Became a history professor at UCF and was there for over 30 years. I saw a stat, I didn't know this, but I did a UCF pod earlier today. Taught over 10,000 students at UCF. That kind of impact is what he had there. So last week, UCF announced that they were going to unveil a scholarship for history majors at the school. We're raising money for it. It's called the James C. Clark Memorial Fund, and it's just it speaks to what a force he was on campus, and he was so proud of UCF and how it grew while he was there. And so this is what he would have wanted. He does have we had a family place in St. Augustine for my entire life, and so he loved North Florida as well. We went to a bunch of things up there, and so just trying to raise awareness for it now and going through the process there. But the support so far in just a couple of days has been overwhelming.
What a testament to your father for UCF to do that, and for people up here in Jacksonville that are either affiliated with UCF or that just quite frankly want more information about the scholarship. How can they learn more about it?
Yeah, so on my socials by Kevin Clark, or go to UCF's Day of Giving, which is their fundraising drive. Find the James C. Clark Memorial Fund, give to that directly. I'd also say that I'm around on Twitter DMs and Instagram DMs if you need to. It's frankly in much better shape than my email inbox, which is a mess. If you have any questions or need links or anything like that.
We'll certainly continue to talk about that, but what a great story for your dad, a lifelong 30-year-plus teacher down there for UCF to honor him in that fashion. Kevin, before we get back into that, I certainly want to talk about some sports topics with you, and let's begin with the Jacksonville Jaguars. You and I haven't spoke since the season ended. Look, from 4 wins to 13 wins. I mean, on the surface, what a year number one it was for Liam Cohen and James Gladstone. What were your thoughts on what the Jaguars accomplished last season?
How can you not be impressed? How can you not, there's no scenario in which I come in here and say, oh, I don't know, they left some meat on the bone. I will say from a regular season standpoint, they exceeded my expectations. If I had to nitpick, I'd say that if they kept running the ball, especially on the outside, they could have beaten Buffalo in the playoffs. I came away from that game. Buffalo was the worst outside run defense team in the entire NFL. Felt like Jacksonville didn't exploit that enough. They certainly did on some of those runs, but I would have just run it. I would have been like an old college team, just run it until they stop it, right? But I think that what Liam Cohen's hire was exactly why you hire what you would call a quarterback guru who understands modern schemes and has the energy and comes in and wants to fix the problems in the franchise. I've been to a lot of Jaguars games. I've been to a lot of their practices. I've been to a lot of their training camps, all that stuff over the years. And what I'll say is it feels like for the first time, this is sustainable. And what I mean by that was obviously there were a couple of high points. And I'm talking about in the let's call it the Khan era. So that's what, 2011 on. There were high points under Doug Marrone. There were high points under Doug Peterson. There were not that many high points under Gus Bradley. We'll put that aside. It just feels like Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence are the guys who are going to consistently compete for division titles, consistently compete for playoff wins. The roster, I think, probably still needs a little bit of work. I didn't love letting Devin Lloyd walk, but I understand the financial realities of declining a 5th-year option, especially at a position like that where it's not a premium position. But they've got the talent, they've got the quarterback, they've got the coach, and there are about 20 franchises that would kill for their problems right now.
ESPN and Omaha Productions, Kevin Clark with us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. And now, Kevin, it's about sustainability, right? I mean, we've seen a lot of teams have one-hit wonders, if you will, and Cohen even mentioned that at his first staff meeting back in February that was posted on Jaguars.com. Year 1 was fantastic. Year 2 is all that matters. You have to come out of the gate swinging because people are going to know that you're not going to surprise them anymore. So year 2 is a gigantic one here in Jacksonville.
No argument here. I mean, you think about the guys who came in and had success year 1, and then by year 4, their tenure was a failure. I'll point to Brian Daboll, who's now the offensive coordinator with the Titans because he got fired by the Giants. He comes in, looks like he changed the culture, looked like he figured out how to get that entire building rolling in the right direction. All of a sudden, they miss on some draft picks and all the talent they thought they had problems at quarterback, and it's over. Year 2 is the prove it year. And I don't want to say anybody can have a good single year, because if it was easy, everybody would do it. But there are certain things, hey, catch a couple teams sleeping on the schedule, you get some injury luck, blah, 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 and all of a sudden you got, 12 wins, 13 wins. That has happened before. I don't necessarily think this Jaguars team is a flash in the pan. I like James Gladstone, the GM. We'll see about Travis Hunter. I think that was a big risk. They really need him to hit in year 2, and they really need him to be an absolute elite talent, because, I mean, they're the type of team that could have used a first-round pick this year. So they need Travis Hunter to be absolutely elite this year. Hopefully the injury didn't set him back too much. But I think that the ingredients are there, and I completely agree. Year 2 is the year that I think there's an element. I'm an Orlando Magic fan. Heck, I'm a University of Miami fan. I went there for school. When you're in the doldrums for a little bit, there's always an element of here we go again with the fan base, and the fan base is almost looking for that because of how many times they've been teased with a false spring, right? And so I think that in order to calm the fears of the fan base, this has to be a juggernaut, remove all doubt, and I think there's a chance that they do exactly that.
Kevin, I want to throw an Orlando Magic question or two at you towards the end, but quickly a look around the AFC South. I mean, look, an offseason that was unbelievably active in Nashville. I don't know. I think they're better, but I think that might be relative, right? They're one of the worst teams in the league. What did you make of the $1 billion the Titans spent this offseason?
It reminds me a little bit, and I'm certainly not saying Super Bowl, but it reminds me a little bit of what the Patriots did last year. We were adding starters to a team that just had a bunch of scrubs, right? Like, you're not overpaying in the sense that, oh, we have to pay Cordell Flott XYZ, Alontae Taylor XYZ. You're also paying a premium because you're not going to put scrubs there, which was the alternative last year. That team lacked talent in Tennessee in a very real way. You saw it every Sunday. Because I went to Miami, I'm invested in Cam Ward's success. I think he can be great. And too many times I saw a bunch of guys who weren't NFL players surrounding him or on the defensive side of the ball. So I actually liked what Tennessee did, because I think they just went out and got competence in a bunch of places. Do I think Wan'Dale Robinson is going to be, a 5-time All-Pro? I certainly do not. Do I think he can be a good volume shooter and give Cam Ward a kind of a nice security blanket outlet to throw to on third down? Yes, I do. So I think it's that. I think they're going to take a huge step forward. I see a massive year-over-year win improvement. I think that division is going to be pretty interesting. I don't know what the heck's going on with C.J. Stroud in Houston, but obviously we know what the floor with the defense. I don't know what the heck is going on with Indianapolis, because they gave Daniel Jones all that money. He's coming off an Achilles and a fibula injury. I think they're dead in the water. So I think this division is not only wide open, I don't think it's going to take a lot of wins to win it. I think that you're going to have some teams in various sort of, I guess, say, life cycle phases. And I just think that a team like the Jaguars, a team like the Titans, a team even, an incomplete team on offense like the Texans, they've got a nice runway here.
Final moments, Kevin Clark of ESPN and Omaha Productions. You mentioned Indianapolis, Kevin. I agree with you. And I've had a bunch of national NFL guys on over the last couple of weeks. And the term, I hate what the Colts did this offseason, has come up more than once. So what's your thought on the Colts offseason?
As a media member, I get it. But when job preservation becomes your priority, bad things happen, right? And you've probably seen it in Jacksonville in the past. And it's, hey, we got to win this year or else we're all losing our jobs. And that's how you end up committing to Daniel Jones. That's how you end up trading 2 first-round picks for Sauce Gardner. Obviously, he's a very good player, but you're going all in on an incomplete project, right? And I think that's the most disappointing thing, if you're a Colts fan, is they believe in their core right now because they have to. They cannot ask questions of the core, because if they tried to start again, they would lose their jobs, right? If they don't win 10 games this year, 9 games this year, they would lose their jobs. That's when the trouble starts. And I don't remember a situation where a franchise went into what I would call a lame duck year, as far as just, hey, win or you're out. And then a bunch of big moves ended up helping them. Obviously, they traded Michael Pittman. They keep Alec Pierce that big money. I wouldn't have hated Alec Pierce going to Tennessee. He would have fit in a bunch of places. I understand why you do that. But I also think if you didn't have Daniel Jones on the roster, would you have given Daniel Jones that much money? Of course not. They would have laughed off the call if Daniel Jones' agent had said, "Hey, we want this much money," coming off an Achilles injury, right? And also coming off of an inconsistent track record in New York, right? So I think that's the biggest concern for me is, did you commit a lot of money to a quarterback because it was the right thing to do, or because you'd already decided to do this a year ago before you got a lot more information? That to me is the question. I don't think the Colts are going to go 2-15 or anything, and they're going to be pretty mediocre, which is the worst thing you can do in this league. But I just do not. If I'm the Jaguars, I'm not exactly staying up at night worried about the Indianapolis Colts.
It will be interesting. The Jaguars, the defending champion. The Texans have done a couple of things in free agency, trading for David Montgomery, bringing in a 3-time Pro Bowler and Wyatt Teller on the offensive line. So we'll see. Obviously, the Jaguar roster will look a lot different next month with 11 draft picks in the NFL draft. Final moments with Kevin Clark. Kevin, in 1989, my uncle took me to an Orlando Magic game at the Orlando Arena, and my life has been a living hell ever since. All right, now I love my Magic, and I love the days of Dennis Scott and Anthony Bowie and Scott Skiles, and if you want to fast forward to Darrell Armstrong and Bo Outlaw, I mean, I can have a conversation with you all day about that. But in the current incarnation of the Magic, the fact that you have Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, and Jalen Suggs, and those guys have played 14% of the time together over the last 2 years due to injury. It's absolutely ridiculous. Sometimes you got to throw up your hands as a sports fan and say, what am I doing? I mean, I've never seen injury issues like this for such a snake-bitten team.
You know, I'm with you. What I will say is, and you get it because it sounds like you follow the team pretty closely, thank God for Desmond Bain, because I think everybody was saying, oh, why would you go all in on Desmond Bain? The Magic wouldn't even be in a playoff position without Desmond Bain. He's tough. He is shot. He's a leader. I love that acquisition, but you're totally right. The whole thing, I mean, not to compare it to the Colts, but when I said you're all in on a core that seems incomplete, the Magic are locked in. They traded their assets for Bain. They thought that he would solve the problems as far as catch and shoot 3-pointers and more offense, instant offense with Paolo and Franz there as well. But now you're looking at this core, which is Bain, Paolo, Franz on tier 1. Tier 2 is Jalen Suggs. Tier 3 is Wendell Carter. Then the young guys, Tristan Da Silva, et cetera, right? And we'll see how they develop. Anthony Black. We'll see how they develop. But when I look at this, I just, if everything goes right, they could compete for the East Finals. The problem is that this franchise, it's like sometimes I pick the Chargers to win something, and I say, well, if everything goes right, well, it's not going to go right. It's not going to go right. Yeah. And with the Magic, I sit here and I say, oh, well, if this happens, this happens. When, since 2009, if this happens actually happened? Because what's happened instead is the worst thing. And I don't know if that's organizational. I don't know if that's management. I don't know if that's coaching. I do think that, I'll say this, and I think Jamal Mosley can save his job by getting out of the play-in. But I also think that type of job, because of the stars there, that's going to be a sought-after job. And there's names. Does Mike Malone want to get back into coaching and coach Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner and Desmond Bain and knowing the floor of that franchise? Taylor Jenkins. I mean, a couple of do they go to the college ranks where obviously there's a lot of great names. But maybe somebody gets tired of NIL, right? Where's your Brad Stevens, right? Which the Celtics went out and got after he got Butler to high highs, right? So I think that's what I'm circling is maybe it's health plus a coach, and maybe there's a trade. Maybe you're able to offload Wendell, maybe you're able to offload Jalen Suggs. I think Jalen Suggs, for as great as he's been, I think sometimes we talk about coaches being the guy before the guy, which Mosley might be. Sometimes players are the guy before the guy. And I think Jalen Suggs has been a great culture guy, great defender during this build. But, on offense, sometimes he can be a liability. He takes too many bad shots. So I'm looking at, trading the core is a bad idea. The core is correct. What is important is maximizing those three guys, and anybody else's collateral damage, I'm good with leaving.
And the top two coaches you mentioned, Taylor Jenkins, obviously the relationship already with Desmond Bain. Yep. And when it comes to Mike Malone, his father, Brennan, was a longtime assistant for the Orlando Magic. So there are certainly connections there. We'll see what happens. 30 seconds, then I want to end with your father's scholarship down there at UCF. If Mosley doesn't get out of the first round, is he gone?
Yes, without a doubt. He should. If not, then the Magic aren't trying to win, and that opens up a whole new set of questions. But he better be.
Completely agree. Kevin Clark. Kevin, again, tell the good folks here in Jacksonville about the scholarship that was named in honor of your father down there at the University of Central Florida. After 30 years of his life was dedicated to that school.
Yeah, James C. Clark Memorial Fund. You can find it at UCF's Day of Giving page or my socials by Kevin Clark. Again, love the whole state of Florida. Love North Florida. Love going to St. Augustine. We went there on the weekends. So we want to honor him in the way he wanted to be honored, which is helping students study history, especially the history of Florida, which is a course he taught. Anything else.
I'll tell you, it's a great cause. And again, Kevin Clark does a terrific job with ESPN and there at Omaha Productions, and he's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Kevin, I know you're busy. Thank you for the time, and we'll talk soon, pal.
Appreciate you.
Live streaming from the XL Digital Studios. Brightened by Harbor Dental Care, Jacksonville's first choice for dental emergencies.
Bueller.
Stay cooler with Bueller.
Hey, pal.
Stand back, Jason. I'm gonna
Sneeze? Yeah, I saw that coming.
It's all this spring pollen, Jason. It's outside and it's inside my house, and I just can't stop. I can't stop.
Sneezing? Okay, let me help you with that.
How can you help?
At Bueller Air and Plumbing, we can improve your indoor air quality with air purifiers, UV lights, and filtration systems. Every new system we install includes high-efficiency 4-inch filters that work better and last longer, even if you forget to change them.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Life can get pretty dusty sometimes. If you spend all day, you could miss it.
Stay cooler with Bueller.
Visit BuellerAir.com.
And that concludes the Josie Jack of All Trades show. Tune in next week where I'll be installing my own French drain.
Joe, wake up, man.
Hey, John, I must have dozed off.
We finished those projects you started.
Whoa, my seamless gutters are actually seamless.
And they're connected into underground PVC drain lines.
And my sprinklers. Wow, look at that coverage.
Next time, just call me first, Joe.
I will, but I ain't singing that song.
Clearwater irrigation
and drainage too.
Attention men and women. If you'd like to get your hair back, then you need to listen to some of our clients. John in Orange Park.
IHRS showed me what was causing my hair loss and helped stop it.
Call IHRS now at 904-777-IHRS. Find out how to grow your hair back with a free hair and scalp examination. Diane from Ponte Vedra.
Now I have what lotions couldn't give me. Thick, beautiful hair.
Hurry and receive a free hair and scalp examination and get 2 weeks of laser treatments for free. Call IHRS at 904-777-4477. Hairforme.com.
Transform your backyard with CSS Fireplaces and Outdoor Living. Fire pits, pergolas, screen enclosures, and outdoor kitchens. CSS handles the entire project from start to finish. You dream it, they can build it. Visit CSSOutdoor.com.
Frank Frangie here for Coil Fencing. Since 1927, Jacksonville has trusted Coil Fencing to protect what matters. And I trust them too. From tough chain link to your commercial project to sleek aluminum fencing your HOA will love, Coil does it all. Did you know that Coil can also install, service, and maintain those automatic gates that help protect your neighborhood or business? To schedule a complimentary consultation, visit CoilJacks.com. That's COYLE Jacks.com. Coil Fencing, A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Hey, this is Lauren Brooks, and if you think Closets by Design is just closets, you've got to see their brand new showroom at Phillips and Emerson. It's amazing what they can do. See for yourself how they custom design organization for any space. Garages, laundry rooms, bedrooms, even the man cave. It's all about smart storage that fits your lifestyle and budget. Schedule an appointment to meet with a design consultant and tour the showroom for ideas you can see and touch. Start at closetsbydesign.com.
Mark Watson with Hardball Creative. What's better than beer? Cold beer. Put your company logo on a custom koozie. Check them out at hardballcreative.com.
Hardball Creative. Hardball does it all.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Focused, fueled, fearless, Farah. Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Thank you to Kevin Clark of ESPN and Omaha Productions for joining us tonight here on Hacker After Dark. Sweet 16 action in the East region and the Midwest region, and we got a couple of upsets potentially brewing. We certainly saw last night Illinois over Houston. I think caught some people off guard. Iowa over Nebraska probably caught some people off guard. Texas almost over Purdue. Purdue won it essentially at the buzzer. Well, tonight, with about 12 minutes to go right now, St. John's a 57-51 lead on the number one overall seed in the tournament, Duke. Actually, St. John's was up 10 not all that long ago. Duke has cut it to 6, but 12 minutes to go, Duke down 6, and they have gone to halftime in the Midwest region. Alabama, one of only 2 SEC teams remaining, they lead the number one seed in the Midwest, Michigan, 49-47 at the half. So, look, long way to go in both games, but right now, both number one seeds in action, Duke and Michigan trailing. St. John's up 5 on the Blue Devils, Alabama up by a bucket on Michigan. Later on tonight, you got Tom Izzo and Michigan State against Dan Hurley and UConn. What a game that should be. And you also have Iowa State and Tennessee. Iowa State coming off just absolutely destroying Kentucky. They now have another SEC opponent in the Tennessee Volunteers, who are a 6th seed. Tennessee, maybe somewhat of a surprise they've made it here as they knocked off the 3 seed Virginia last weekend. As far as the Florida Gators in college basketball, look, the week started off horrifically on Sunday night when you lose to Iowa and just get your guts ripped out essentially at the buzzer. I mean, it was a horrible loss. But as you take stock of what's gone on during the week, let's really think about it. Your SEC brethren, I mean, look, if you can't win it, I don't think basketball is really the same as football. It is maybe to an extent to get in the tournament, but if Florida can't win it, I highly doubt you'd want another SEC team to win it. You kind of want those bragging rights. Well, you saw Texas get eliminated last night. You saw John Calipari in Arkansas get eliminated last night. And you saw Houston get eliminated last night. Houston is the team that you obviously beat for the national championship last year. And quite frankly, I thought Houston was going to go to the Final Four. I am stunned by their performance. In their home city, they lost to Illinois last night in Houston, just miles away from their campus. Illinois was up like 18 in the second half, ends up winning by 11. Just Houston had no answer. So I think if you're Florida, it's kind of nice to see your SEC brethren fall to the wayside, and the team that you beat last year doesn't get one over on you the year later as Houston gets knocked out. But from a Florida standpoint as well, after the loss yesterday, we find out that Urban Clavjar, the 6th man of the year in the SEC, is coming back to Florida for next season. We find out Boogie Flan is coming back to Florida for next season. And earlier today, we find out Isaiah Brown has announced his intention to run it back at Florida next season. That's 3 of the 8-man rotation that the Gators had. Obviously, Xavier Lee's gone. I don't think he has any eligibility left. And then you got the front court. Interesting about the front court. I talked a lot about this with Patrick Young earlier today on the Gator Bites podcast, which you can check out on all the 1010XL social media platforms, including the 1010XL Florida Gator Facebook page. Patrick and I do a podcast every Friday, the Gator Bites podcast, Of the four guys in the front court, Micah Hanlogden, you'd think, is out of eligibility. He had senior night in Gainesville, but very quietly, Hanlogden is reportedly going through the process of petitioning the NCAA for another year. Remember, he only played in 7 regular season games last year, and then Florida obviously went on to play 9 tournament games between the SEC tournament and the NCAA tournament. So could there be an issue for Hanlogden and his team to petition the NCAA to try to get another year of eligibility? Well, they think there is, and that's what they're reportedly trying to do. And then you're waiting on Chinyalu, on Houck, and on Condon. And I've said all week, here's the way I think it's going to go. I think Houck is gone. We did this last night. In fact, Patrick and I talked about this on the podcast today as well. So let's say Thomas Houck is picked 20th in the draft, for argument's sake. I've seen him as high as the lottery. I've seen him as low as the mid-20s. So we'll put it right in the middle, number 20. If you're picked 20th in the NBA draft, you would make $3.6 million your rookie year, and the overall contract you would sign would be 4 years, $17.7 million. That's what Houck would get if he's picked 20th in the NBA, which he most likely will be somewhere in that ballpark. That's vastly superior to anything he's going to get NIL-wise next year in Gainesville. So if Thomas Houck comes back, I would be A, stunned, but B, it would be for the love of college, for the love of playing for the Florida Gators, for being king of the campus for another year, and all that entails, I suppose. Use your imagination on that one. Financially speaking, there's no reason for Thomas Houck to come back. He would make a lot more in the NBA as the number 20 overall pick than he could make in college. Condon and Chinyalu, that's not the same situation. Both guys are projected second-round picks. Now, for Condon, could he sneak into the end of round 1? Yeah, maybe, but every mock draft you see, you got Condon usually in about the 35 to 40 range. There are 30 picks in round number 1. Chinyalu is more in the mid-40s. So both of those guys have a decision to make. If you're Condon, do you come back to Gainesville without your best buddy? I mean, him and Houck have been roommates for 3 years. They do everything together. It would be weird, I'm sure, for Condon to come back without Houck. And do you just leave on that accord, just not wanting to be there without Houck? Or do you want to come back and try to work on your game again in your final year of eligibility? I think what Condon done is going to dictate what Chinyalu is going to do. Because if you're Ruben Chinyalu and Houck leaves and let's say Condon leaves, why would you come back under those circumstances? Because at that point, it is probably a rebuild. If you lose Hanlogden, if you lose Houck, and if you lose Condon, well, then you got issues in the front court, even if Chinyalu returns. And at that point, I think Chinyalu might, I hate to use this term, but it's the one people can relate to. He might pull a Denzel Aberdeen, right? If you're Chinyalu and Condon's gone and Houck's gone, you probably are going to stay in college because you can probably make more money in college next year than you can as a mid-round second round pick in the NBA draft. Do you pull a Denzel Aberdeen and go to the highest bidder in college with NIL? I don't know. In an absolutely perfect world for Florida, I think if the planets align, Condon comes back and Chinyalu comes back. I think Houck is gone regardless, and I don't think Hanlogden's going to win his NCAA appeal. And that's kind of where Patrick and I landed earlier today. Of the big four on the front court, I think Florida fans would do backflips if Condon and Chinyalu came back. I still have real question as to whether that's the case. But as far as the backcourt goes, Urban Quabsar, Boogie Flan, Isaiah Brown, 3 of the 4 that played in that rotation have announced their intention to come back. You got to figure the 2 young guys, Alex Lloyd and CJ Ingram, are going to come back. Isaiah Brown's brother, AJ Brown, who redshirted this year, will be in the fold. So backcourt-wise, they already have some depth. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that front court. We're getting down to it in the East region. We're at about the 8-minute mark. St. John's holding on to a 62-59 58 lead over Duke. We'll keep you updated. Still at halftime in the Midwest between Alabama and Michigan. The Crimson Tide lead 49-47. Approaching the 9 o'clock hour here on Hacker After Dark. In about 10 or 15 minutes, we'll get back in to the NFL Draft and the Jacksonville Jaguars. AJ Schulte of A to Z Sports.com talks about the draft class, and primarily, I want to talk about the defensive class. I want to talk linebackers. I want to talk secondary. I want to talk edge rushers, because that's where I think the bulk of the Jaguar draft picks are going to come from. The Jaguars currently have 11 selections. If you had to ask me an over-under, I'd say 7, maybe even 7.5 are going to be on the defensive side of the ball. I think it's going to be a heavy defensive draft for Jacksonville, and we'll ask AJ Schulte of A to Z Sports.com about the strength of this draft class when it comes to the defensive side of the football. With Aaron Williams, the Hacker Ryan Green with you. 1 hour down, 1 hour to go. We'll take you up till 10 o'clock as we do every night right here on Hacker After Dark. It's 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
Turn on the radio.
In your car, 92.5 FM and 1010 AM.
Would you like to drive for a while?
In your house, at the beach, on your phone, at the gym, on vacation, out of town.
Well, everyone knows that.
Download our free 1010XL app for all smart devices.
At G&H Tires and Service, the G stands for great pricing. The H, well, that means honest service. For over 20 years, Roger and his team have helped Jacksonville drivers stay safe on the road. Need brakes, oil change, AC not blowing cold? Well, how about a super affordable $36 oil change? Affordable brake jobs, AC checks before summer hits, alignments for all these construction roads, and even free check engine light inspections. Locally owned, community driven. G&H Tires and Service on Beach Boulevard.
Hey, Hicken here. I couldn't be any happier than to join the George Moore Chevrolet family. When I say family, I mean it. Visit their beautiful showroom today off Atlantic Boulevard. Find out exactly what I'm talking about. No pressure, just friendly help. And whether you want a car, a truck, SUV, electric, pre-owned, you name it, George Moore Chevrolet has it. And if you can't make it over to Atlantic Boulevard, no problem. MooreChevy.com is easy to navigate as any site you will try. It's never been more easy to use. George Moore Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
Checkmate. I'm Brendan Cecilia, founder of Checkmate Coatings.
And I'm Chester, Checkmate's mascot and brand ambassador.
Why do you even talk in these ads?
People see me on the trucks, Brendan, so they expect to hear from me as well.
But I have over a decade's experience personally installing high-quality polymer floors right here in Jacksonville.
Well, I'm a professional mascot, riding around on the side of your trucks, smiling at passers-by.
Then could you at least tell people about our 2-stage polymer application process? Give your garage the finishing touch with a gorgeous floor that's guaranteed to last?
A bit busy posing for selfies, I'm afraid.
Years of experience?
Check. Adorable mascot?
Check. The team you need to make your garage gorgeous? Checkmate!
Transforming your floors, making them great. Checkmate.
Visit checkmatecoatings.com. That's checkmatecoatings.com.
Termite swarms are active right now in Jacksonville, and once they get inside, damage can happen fast. Termites don't knock, they silently attack the structure of your home, leaving behind costly repairs and long-term headaches. Protect what you've worked hard for with the proven protection homeowners trust. Terminix, with advanced termite treatment and prevention solutions. Visit Terminix.com and schedule your free termite inspection today.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Still present, ready. Farah doesn't flinch. Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Boy, what a story earlier today involving 15-time major champion Tiger Woods. Reading this off of ESPN.com, Woods was arrested on suspicion of DUI on Friday after he was involved in a car crash not far from his home on Jupiter Island in the state of Florida, according to the Martin County Sheriff. The sheriff said Woods was driving a Land Rover northbound on South Beach Road at a high speed when he attempted to pass a truck hauling a pressure cleaner, which had slowed to turn into a driveway. Woods' SUV swerved to avoid the truck, but clipped the back of the trailer. The Land Rover flipped on its side and slid down the road. Woods climbed out of the passenger window to get out. The sheriff said Woods and the other driver were not injured. The accident occurred around 2 o'clock. Woods, 50, was arrested on suspicion of misdemeanor DUI with property damage and refusal to submit to a lawful test. Woods arrived at jail at 3 p.m. The sheriff said he would remain in custody for 8 hours under Florida law. That would put him out at 11 o'clock tonight. I'm not familiar with the ways of jail. Do they release people at 11 o'clock on a Friday night, or is he going to have to wait till in the morning?
I don't know about that. I haven't been there before, but I mean, it's on there, so I guess I'll take their word for it.
All right. The sheriff department said DUI investigators are on the scene, determined Woods showed signs of impairment. Now, the interesting thing was, I guess Woods did the breathalyzer, and it didn't show any signs of alcohol. However, Woods, according to the story on ESPN.com, refused to submit to a urinalysis test for other drugs. Yikes. Isn't this the second time Woods has flipped a car?
Yes.
I mean, he got into an awful crash.
Yeah, in 2021.
Awful crash.
He was lucky to be alive.
You know, it's one thing. I mean, I would imagine, I don't know this, I would imagine some people flip a car once, and after you do that once, it's one of those things that likely doesn't happen again. You flip a car twice, I mean, at that point, you got to start looking in the mirror a little bit. I mean, Tiger Woods, what a scary story. And this was in a residential area. I mean, if this is a guy, according to ESPN.com, that was turning into a driveway, Woods is going around him at a high rate of speed. Obviously, you would expect there were a lot of houses in that area. That's a bad deal, man. And look, Woods can't buy a break from a PR standpoint. He's recovering from all his injuries, and he was flirting with the idea of playing in the Masters next month, and he was making TV appearances again, and he was getting back after it, publicly, and then bam, this happens. And, when the mugshot comes out, it'll be all over the place. And man, that is a sad state of affairs for Tiger Woods. Hopefully he can figure it out. Again, if you do a breathalyzer and it comes up with a 0, I would probably assume at that point there was no alcohol, but refusing a urinalysis obviously leads the mind to wonder what he was hiding in what he thought his urine would show the investigators.
I said this earlier with Rick on Rick's show. I said there is no reason that Tiger Woods should be driving himself anywhere with as much money as he has. There is no reason that he can't hire a professional driver to drive him around wherever he needs to go.
In the last, and we got to go quick here. In the last, I'd say 5 years, certainly 10 years, the days of Uber and Lyft and everything, you should never get a DUI.
That's what I'm saying.
Ever.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago. All right. In today's technology, with where we are, when literally all you have to do is go on an app on your phone and hit a couple of buttons, and there will be an Uber or a Lyft or whomever to come pick you up. Technology that was not around 10, 15, 20 years ago. In 2026, you should never get a DUI. I'm just shocked every time I see people getting arrested for DUI in 2026 with where we are now, with how easy, and I do mean easy, it is to find a ride home. But a scary stuff from Tiger Woods. According to the story as well, he is being cooperative, but was not trying to incriminate himself, the sheriff said, so he was careful in what he said and didn't say. DUI investigators, according to ESPN.com, believed at the scene that Woods wasn't impaired by alcohol. They believe it was some type of medication or drug. They also added that no medications or drugs were found in Woods' SUV. So more information, I'm sure, will come out this weekend about Tiger Woods. Thankfully, no one appears to have gotten hurt. But my goodness, flipping your car twice in 5 years. Yikes. Bad situation there for Tiger. Let's get back into the National Football League. Let's get back into the Jacksonville Jaguars, talking a little draft with AJ Schulte of A to Z Sports.com. I will tell you, 4.5 to go In the East region in the Sweet 16, Duke 67, St. John 65. We will keep you updated. AJ Schulte, A to Z Sports.com, next, right here on Hacker After Dark.
Radio from another realm.
The jig is up!
1010XL.
I'm here with Danny Van Sickle, director of the Electrical Training Alliance. Danny, tell me about your program.
Hey, Rick. We're a 4-year electrical apprenticeship. Our students start out making over $40,000 a year, and right now make over $90,000 a year, including benefits. There is no tuition or student debt. You just have to apply and get accepted.
Did you say no tuition and no student debt?
You heard that right, Rick. Once you're accepted to the program, your only cost for the books and the course fees. About $800 a year.
That sounds like an amazing opportunity. How can I learn more?
Just go to etajax.org, and you can apply there.
Apply by May 14th.
Jeff Breyer, president of Lifetime Enclosures and Lifetime Flooring.
And I'm Nikki Sema. My dad started in business when I was just 4 years old, and now we're 35 years and 20,000 satisfied customers in, and literally have a showroom in every neighborhood.
So whether you're looking to revitalize your home with new flooring or need more outdoor living space with a glass or screen enclosure, we've got you covered.
Visit our websites and don't forget to stop by our showrooms during our open house and cookout this Saturday from 10 to 3. Come see affordable luxury, experience the Lifetime difference, and receive additional open house discounts.
The key to victory is anticipation.
The road to the regular season rides through the combine, free agency, the draft, OTAs, and mini camps.
This should be fun to watch.
Follow the offseason with AA Automotive and 1010XL. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
David Garrard here, and once again, I'm reporting good news about how good my knees are doing following PRP treatment at Southeast Orthopedic Specialists. For an old quarterback like me, my knees are in great shape.
You don't have to be a celebrity or a professional athlete to appreciate the everyday personal attention you'll receive at Southeast Orthopedic Specialists. For any orthopedic need, call on the pros at SOS.
Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. When it's game time, Farah doesn't flinch. Here's another call on the 1010XL hotline, driven by Key Buick GMC, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville, your home for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we are glad you are with us. We're now well inside of a month away from the NFL Draft, April 23rd, 24th, and 25th up in Pittsburgh. The Jaguars, for the first time in franchise history, do not have a first-round pick, but what they do have are 4 picks in the top 100 and 11 picks overall. Let's talk about this year's draft class and how what happened in free agency will affect what the Jaguars do next month. AJ Schulte, A to Z Sports.com, has been one of our draft guys this time of year for a couple of years now, and AJ's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. AJ, it's been a while, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's been kind of a crazy year overall. So, but I'm glad to hop on. I'm glad for the invite.
Hey, we certainly appreciate the time. All right, you and I haven't spoke, obviously, since the season ended. Just your overall thoughts on year number 1 for Liam Cohen and James Gladstone as they get ready to embark on year number 2. Obviously, on the surface, from 4 wins to 13 wins, an overwhelming success. But from your standpoint, a guy that doesn't obviously live here in Jacksonville, what was your mile-high view of what the Jaguars did last season?
I think it's really encouraging to see I think it's the biggest thing that stood out to me was a culture shift. You know, for the longest time, it kind of felt like Jacksonville just did not know how to win a game. You know, no matter how much talent they had, it kind of felt like the Jaguars were always the winners of the offseason and then losers in the regular season, and it never quite got through. But then you look at the way that they ended the year, where you winning so many games in a row, beating the Broncos, you know, in December, and beating teams like the Chargers, and kind of being competitive throughout most of the year, I think is such a huge win for them. They have still a lot of talent left over. I'm really excited to see what Trevor Lawrence can do in year 2 with Liam Cohen and kind of putting the pieces together on that offense, because I think they can be one of the top offenses in the NFL, just talent-wise. You know, if everybody takes that next step together, I'm really excited to see what they could do because I think they could go further in the playoffs this year.
I think it's a great point. You look at the skill position around Trevor. Obviously, ETN's gone. We'll get there in a moment. But I'm excited about the 3 wide receiver set. The idea of Brian Thomas Jr., Jacoby Myers, and Parker Washington. I mean, we never saw that or sparingly saw it towards the end of the year. Obviously, Jacoby didn't even arrive here until basically Halloween. So now they're going to have an entire offseason together. You add Brenton Strange into the mix. I think Trevor's got all the skill he needs around him to succeed.
Yeah, and I love Parker Washington. I think he's one of the most underrated wide receivers in the NFL. Kind of doing a little bit of the Puka Nacua stuff that the Rams had that Liam Cohen kind of brought in. Just such a nifty little wide receiver weapon that they can use around, move him around the formation. Really good, I think, as a blocker. It's just a really intriguing weapon overall. And if Brian Thomas Jr. can kind of get back to form that we saw in his rookie year, I mean, I think the sky's the limit for this offense.
AJ Schulte, A2ZSports.com. I agree. Look, sometimes you got to be careful based solely on stats. But if you go based on stats in the month of December and if you lump in January, I don't know how many wide receivers in the league were better than Parker Washington. He had 4 100-yard games, and his non-100-yard game was an 87-yard performance. So he was dynamic in the last month of the year. We'll see if that carries over into 2026. AJ, they did lose Travis Etienne. He got paid in New Orleans to the tune of $13 million per year. But Bashal Tutin certainly showed some things. They have LaQuint Allen Jr., and then they go out and they bring in Chris Rodriguez from Washington. What is your thought on the Jaguar running back position right now?
I think it's actually kind of interesting because I've been a fan of Chris Rodriguez even going back to his days at Kentucky, coming out of college. Just a really unique contact balance runner, very tough, very physical, just a really crafty tackle breaker. And I think over his time in Washington, I think he's improved with his vision and patience and overall ability as a runner. And obviously Tutin is an explosive threat. Anytime he touches the ball, you know, he can take it to house. And so I think it is actually kind of an interesting running back room because I don't know if they have a de facto running back one necessarily in terms of like, this is the guy who's absolutely going to be like the clear number one back every game. But I think what they've done now with their room is they've really filled it out with the diverse skill sets and kind of can attack you in multiple ways, you know, kind of a little bit of thunder and lightning dynamic with Rodriguez, who's just a big bruiser kind of a back. And then Tutin, you could just scoot by everybody and take it to the house. And then LaQuint Allen, I think, is such a nifty third down back with his pass protection, his ability as a receiver. So I think that's a really good, really strong three-headed monster really at running back. And Liam Cohen is such a creative run game designer that I think that they've really filled out a room to give them. Maybe none of these guys are like 1,000-yard rushers, but the room could collectively put up like, you know, 1,800 yards on the ground, and I wouldn't be surprised.
It's a fantasy football player's worst nightmare because I get the sense some Sundays will be Chris Rodriguez Sundays, some Sundays will be Bashal Tutin Sundays, and I know that LaQuint Allen Jr. has a couple of big games this season as well. Devin Lloyd also left, and the interesting thing there, you know, this is kind of what I've told Jaguar fans the entire offseason. Look, nothing against Devin Lloyd. He had a great, spectacular 2025, and he deserved to get paid. But you could legitimately make the argument in July and August of last year before the 25 season, people were wondering if Devin Lloyd was going to make the roster. He did not get his fifth-year option picked up. The thought was Ventrell Miller might replace him as a starting linebacker. And to Devin Lloyd's credit, he came in, worked his tail off, and had a ridiculous 2025. And now that he's gone, the question is it Ventrell Miller? Is it a guy like Jack Kaiser or even a Branson Combs? Or do they need to get somebody in round 2 or round 3 of the NFL draft?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think Miller has flashed a lot, but overall consistency has never really put it together. I was a big fan of Jack Kaiser coming out of Notre Dame. To tell you the truth, I thought he was a really underrated option. Getting him in the 4th round, I thought was one of the bigger steals last year. With with the James Gladstone in town from the Rams is where this kind of gets interesting, because the Rams have historically never really valued linebacker, right? And we've already kind of seen that. I think Devin Lloyd probably could have gotten more money, or at least I thought he might have gotten more money. And what he got, I thought the Jaguars could have afforded if they wanted to. And it doesn't really sound like they wanted to. So you kind of already see a little bit of that sign of, hey, maybe they are kind of like the Rams, where they don't necessarily value linebacker as much. And so I think it's a tricky argument. Where they pick in the second round and even in the third round is a weird territory for linebacker to me, because I think you're hoping somebody falls, and I don't necessarily know if the pick is going to match the value there without reaching for somebody. I think, maybe if Josiah Trotter from Missouri falls, I think he would be a great pick next to Oluokun. But other than that, it's kind of like you're hoping, maybe Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech somehow falls through, or Anthony Hill from Texas somehow falls through. And it doesn't really sound like that's going to happen right now. So I kind of feel like they might just kind of play it and play the board, see how it goes. Maybe they make a trade up because they have, like you said, 11 draft picks. But if they are anything like the Rams, they're not going to value linebacker that much.
AJ Schulte, A2ZSports.com. Let's get into the draft class and the time that we have left. AJ, no first-round pick for the first time in franchise history, but as you just alluded to, 4 picks on day number 2. And look, I've talked to some draft analysts so far during this draft process. I'm curious your thoughts. I've been told, 15, 18 guys with round 1 grades. Maybe the meat of this class will be on night number 2. And if that's the case, the Jaguars do have 4 picks on day 2. What's your thought there?
Yeah, I'm kind of with them. I think the draft, where the strength of the draft class is going to be, is in day 2 and 3. And so the Jaguars having that many swings and having the opportunity to kind of move around the board as needed with the ammo they have, that's I think is such a smart decision, just because I think this class is very top heavy. Even if you get into the middle of the first round, end of the first round, you're starting to go, well, I guess, maybe this guy makes sense there. Maybe, it's a little bit of a reach, but whatever, somebody has to go in the first round this year. So it's kind of tricky in that aspect. But I think the Jaguars, with the holes that they do have on the roster, where they kind of need to, bolster the depth of the defensive line, maybe add a tight end, you kind of just fill out the depth overall. They have a lot of the picks in the right range to capitalize on the talent level to where they kind of get the best bang for their buck, most return on their investment. So I think they're in a good spot here, just overall in terms of hey, we don't have a first round pick, but actually that's okay this year.
You mentioned Hill, the linebacker from Texas, Rodriguez, the linebacker from Texas Tech. I've seen them mocked to Jacksonville quite a bit. You don't know if they're going to be there at 56. I'll tell you another guy I see mocked to Jacksonville a bunch, and I don't know if somebody puts it on a mock draft and others just kind of follow suit, or if there's something more to it. But is it Grayson Halton, the defensive tackle from Oklahoma? Boy, I've seen him mocked to Jacksonville an awful lot. What's your thought on him?
I think it's Halton. You kind of came in. He's a little bit undersized. He's a little bit on the smaller end of defensive tackles, but he's such an explosive pass rusher. And I think the intriguing thing about him is when you look at all the defensive tackles who are kind of projected to go on day 2, he's the only one that's a natural pass rusher. Caden McDonald from Ohio State, Dominique Orange from Iowa State, Darrell Jackson Jr. from Florida State, Lee Hunter, Texas Tech, Christian Miller, Georgia. They're all run stuffers. They're all nose tackles. There's not really a true 3-technique pass rushing defensive tackle other than Grayson Halton. And I think for his credit, I think that's actually a really good thing for his draft stock, because teams are so desperate for a pass rusher. So every year they're going to reach for a guy who they think can be a good pass rusher. And I said, I don't know why he can't be Malik Collins in the NFL. Halton just kind of came in, He's dominated the SEC. He went in and dominated the Senior Bowl. I thought he tested very well. I think he looked good at the combine as well. So I think for me, Halton makes a lot of sense for the Jaguars just because they need to boost the pass rush on the inside, kind of give somebody else up front there. And maybe Armstead is a free agent at the end of the year. Maybe they need a long-term replacement for him up front. Mason Smith hasn't quite delivered on what we thought he could be coming out of the draft. And so I think for Jacksonville, when you play in the AFC and you have so many talented quarterbacks on the schedule, you kind of need to boost your pass rush. And I think Halton is a tremendous fit in their defense. I think he can pretty much start right away.
Final moments, AJ Schulte, A to Z Sports.com. AJ, as we wrap up, 11 draft picks for Jacksonville, and you look at the makeup of the roster, they could use some help at tight end, maybe another offensive lineman, maybe another wide receiver, but I think the bulk of this is going to be on the defensive side of the ball. You look at what they've lost, from Andrew Wingard to Greg Newsome. They're probably not bringing back Emmanuel Ogbah or DeJuan Smoot or Austin Johnson. But obviously, Devin Lloyd is gone. And not that most of those guys outside of Lloyd were huge playmakers, but they were certainly depth pieces, particularly on special teams as well. You got to replace those bodies. From a defensive standpoint, how would you assess this draft class overall?
I think the defensive tackle class kind of dries up very quickly, which is why I think you see a lot of mocks with Grayson Halton so early on. Defensive back is very deep. I think there are probably 15 safeties this year that I'm like, yeah, that easily draftable, no problem. And corner is even more so. There are so many corners this year. Linebacker, I think, is also fairly deep, just in terms of you have the Ohio State guys who are the clear 1 and 2, and then there's a clear tier 2 and a tier 3. But I think you can go down to tier 6 of these guys, and there's going to be at least a key special teamer in there. I think Scooby Williams out of Texas A&M or Eric Gentry out of USC, guys who are kind of thought of as 7th rounders. I think even those guys could be, role players at least on defense. The strength, I think, of the defensive class is in the pass rushing edge class. There's so much talent stock, especially from I would say maybe pick 50 to 150. I could name 20 guys in that range that I'm yeah, no doubt about it. I think he could come in and at least give 4 or 5 sacks a year, just a rotational rusher at worst. So I think if you're Jacksonville, with the amount of picks that they have, just to replace depth, I think this is a really good class to do it, because where their needs match up is where the strength of the class will be.
And Gladstone is stacking picks, 11 picks this year, already 10 picks next year. Now, they may trade some of those. Obviously, we saw what they did for Jacoby Myers, a 4th and a 6th. They might do that like a Tim Patrick type deal, a 6th rounder and acquiring him. But as it stands right now, 21 picks over the next 2 drafts for Jacksonville. AJ Schulte of A to Z Sports.com. AJ, tell the good folks here in Jacksonville about A to Z Sports and the coverage that you'll have in the coming weeks as the draft approaches.
Well, so I'm in charge of the pass rushers for A to Z Sports. So you can find a bunch of their scouting reports online from yours truly at A to Z Sports. You can just search my name, go to our NFL draft channel. They're all there under our scouting reports. For me personally, I'm covering the Rams. So I have a little bit of insight into Jacksonville just because of James Gladstone's insights there. But for the most part, I will be covering the Rams. I still cover the Sooners. So I'm glad you asked me about Grayson Halton, because that's my guy. But it's going to be another strong draft year. We're doing a whole bunch of new stuff this year. We're getting ready to launch a new updated big board as well. So I'm excited for everybody to tune in and get to see that.
AJ, I know you're busy, man. Thank you as always for the time, and we'll do it again soon, pal.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, man.
We may have occasional disagreements.
What an idiot.
We might even argue once in a while.
And it's so obvious.
But we're always a team.
We're all friends here.
1010XL.
I love this job.
Join the family fun.
MyGate Rewards members, this deal is just for you. Right now, grab any two 12-ounce Red Bulls and get 2 of your favorite Roller Grill items for just $1. When you need a boost, Gates got you. See store for details.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up, and I've already made around $300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code SPEED to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code SPEED for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code SPEED for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
Hi, this is Dale Murray with Murray Automotive Group in Stark and Kingsland. Save yourself from those big city dealers and their fast-talking mumbo-jumbo. No matter what your automotive need is, we've got you covered. Ford, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and nobody beats our prices. I mean nobody. Shazam! Plus our exclusive 15-year, 150,000-mile warranty included on every qualified vehicle. And we'll trade anything from high heels to wagon wheels. Compare our prices online at ShazamAuto.com. Then come see me, Dale Murray. I'll be waiting for you. Shazam!
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Focused, fueled, fearless, Farah. Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Yes, it is. Thank you to AJ Schulte, A2ZSports.com, for joining us tonight here on Hacker After Dark. I will tell you it is a final in the East region. Duke survives a effort from St. John's. St. John's led this game with about 8 minutes to go, but ultimately Duke was too much. The Blue Devils, 80-75. Duke advances to the Elite Eight. They will now await the winner of Michigan State and UConn, which will begin in about 30 minutes. Michigan has taken control against Alabama. The Crimson Tide led this game at the half. Michigan now up 10, 70-60 over the Alabama Crimson Tide with about 11 and a half to go in the ball game. The winner of Michigan-Alabama will take on the winner of tonight's game, which won't start till almost 10:30 Eastern, which is preposterous, with Iowa State and Tennessee. So more Sweet 16 talk. We'll have the Elite Eight this weekend, and of course we will have the Final Four by I guess Sunday night. Coming up next, let's talk a little fantasy football, right? It's never too early to start looking at fantasy football from a Jaguar point of view. We'll also talk a little draft. My buddy Shane Hallam has covered the draft for years. He's now with DraftSharks.com. Great fantasy website, but also now doing a great job in covering the NFL draft. So a little draft talk, a little fantasy talk, a little Chris Rodriguez, Bashel Tutin, Parker Washington, Jacoby Myers talk. Shane Hallam, DraftSharks.com, joins me next on a Friday night here in Jacksonville. We're glad you're with us. Till 10 o'clock, it's Hacker After Dark.
Short track, short stacks.
Oh, Lordy, what a mess.
This Sunday at Martinsville.
Gonna win at Martinsville.
Powered by the Plumbers and Pipefitters Local Union 234. From the station with the most horsepower, 1010XL.
Hello, First Coast. I'm sure by now you have seen our bright green GFL trucks and containers throughout the greater Jacksonville area. We're an industry leader in solid waste and would love the opportunity to earn your business. We're committed to customer service, reliability, and have an unwavering focus on safety. Whether commercial or construction, let us haul your waste away. Call 904-760-5880 to get a quote today from GFL, Green for Life.
Yo, E.T. here, and you know that on the field preparation wins championships, right? Well, the same goes for your health. Right here in my side of town in Fleming Island, Encore Research Group is helping locals take charge through cutting-edge research studies. Everything from weight loss to diabetes and hypertension. Their team of local, multi-specialty doctors is focused on advancing medicine and keeping our community healthy. If you want to see if you qualify, check them out at EncoreDocs.com.
The First Coast Games is an annual team-building challenge to introduce fun activities into the workplace and focus on your employees' health and wellness goals. These goals include some friendly competition, of course, including pickleball, cornhole, volleyball, flag football, and other team sports. The games will begin in March. Register your company and teams at fcymca.org.
The price of gold is soaring and the price of silver is near record highs. If you got gold or silver just laying around, Estates Roadshow wants it. Broken chains, old rings, coins, watches, diamonds, vintage jewelry. If it's valuable, they're buying it. No appointment needed, just walk in. Get a free appraisal and walk out with cash. They're also buying pre-1964 silver coins, flatware, sterling silverware stamped 925. They're buying coin collections, gold, silver, foreign, and domestic. Plus, they've been in business over 35 years with thousands of happy customers. Licensed, bonded, state-certified scales, highest tech equipment, employees with GIA certification. The Estates Roadshow is happening in St. Augustine at World Golf Renaissance, Sunday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. For more info, call Marshall at 609-781-6559. Or go to estatesroadshow.com and follow Estates Roadshow on Facebook to see all upcoming events.
Hey, Jacksonville, David Garrard here. If you want a street-legal golf cart that's built with quality and style, check out Dynamic Drives and Designs in Jacks Beach. They have new, used, and fully customized carts from the top brands like Atlas, Dodge, and Pilot Car. Every cart gets a complete expert inspection, so you know it's ready to hit the road. Their team can help you design the perfect custom cart that fits your style and needs. For your custom golf cart, visit dynamicdrivesdesign.com today and see your perfect ride.
Shoot your shot on Prize Picks. Hicken here and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. That's right, Prize Picks is now giving you $50 in lineups when you sign up and play your first $5. Prize Picks makes every dunk, every dime, and every board that much more exciting. So don't miss this chance to get started on America's #1 app for sports picks. All kinds of great features on Prize Picks, too, like stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. So, like, hey, Steph Curry, points, 3-pointers, assists. Now you can pick them all in the same lineup, only on Prize Picks. But remember, you got to download the Prize Picks app today. Use code 1010XL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, but you must put in code 1010XL, and you'll get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. It's all on Prize Picks. Prize Picks, man, it's good to be right.
Looking for adventure? Need a machine that works as hard as you do? CF Moto has you covered. At Ride Now Beach Boulevard, we've got CF Moto ATVs and UTVs built for any task, any trail, anytime. Tear up the dirt with the trail-tested C-Force ATV lineup or conquer through terrain with a Z-Force UTV. Find your CF Moto ride today at Ride Now Beach Boulevard or visit ridenowbeachboulevard.com. ATVs and UTVs are for riders 16 and older. They can be hazardous to operate. CF Moto recommends an improved safety training course.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Still present, ready. Farah doesn't flinch. Now, the Monahan's golden moment. Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach, your local family jewelers.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. We are now inside a month away from the NFL Draft. It will be April 23rd, 24th, and 25th up in Pittsburgh. The Jaguars, 11 picks total, including 4 selections in the top 100. Let's talk about the draft. Let's talk about free agency and how what happened in free agency will likely affect what the Jaguars do next month in Pittsburgh. Shane Hallam has been one of our draft guys for years. He's now with Draft Sharks, and Shane's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Shane, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Ryan. I'm getting pumped up, man. It's getting close. Draft is getting close. We're into past the combine pro day season now, so I'm looking forward to getting this thing completed here at the end of April.
Yeah, there's no doubt. It's your time of year. And as far as the Jaguars go, far more departures this year than arrivals in free agency. Obviously, the two big ones, Etienne to New Orleans, Devin Lloyd to Carolina, and now it's all about replacing them. The Jaguars have already done something about replacing Etienne. We'll get there in a moment. But as far as replacing Devin Lloyd, Shane, I've been told it's a really good linebacker class, and I'm curious if you would agree with that sentiment.
Absolutely. I don't think this class as a whole is overly great. It's definitely a weaker class as a whole, but the linebacker group is really, really strong. I mean, we're going to see certainly one off-ball linebacker go in the first round in Sonny Styles of Ohio State, but it's deep. I mean, you have Jacob Rodriguez, who won the award for the best linebacker in the country, probably going to be a day 2 pick. Going to start from day one. Josiah Trotter from Missouri, maybe a round 3 pick, who's going to start from day one. Jeremiah Trotter's son. So there's a ton of depth, and I think the Jaguars can certainly replace Devin Lloyd with a 3rd or 4th round pick and get kind of a cheaper guy and get 80% of the production and feel good about the cost of that.
Two guys at linebacker that are linked to Jacksonville and a ton of mock drafts. You mentioned one of them, Jacob Rodriguez. The other one, Anthony Hill from Texas. What would your thoughts be on Hill or Rodriguez, and could one or both be there at 56?
I think both have a chance to be there at 56. I think it's always tough to gauge for me as someone that does 7-round mock drafts where off-ball linebackers are going to go. Because I think a lot of teams are moving to only having 2 on the field at once and maybe don't value the position as highly. And that could benefit a team like Jacksonville that's probably looking to draft one early. And you could have a guy like Rodriguez fall there to 56. I think both these players profile a little bit differently. I think Rodriguez, though he showed some really good athleticism at the combine with his workouts, but he's definitely a player who is a little bit on the smaller side, but very tough, really good wrap-up tackler. I think he's going to be that player that, kind of like Devin Lloyd was, right? Can do a little bit of coverage, but's really going to clean up the tackling. Anthony Hill, to me, has that bigger size to really go and be a player that can go sideline to sideline, that can match up with the tight end really well. Has maybe more upside because of his bigger size at 6'2", 238 compared to Rodriguez, who is 6'1", 230. So I think it's going to depend what they want, but I think both players can be day 1 starters.
Shane Hallam of Draft Sharks with us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. I mentioned replacing Etienne. The Jaguars have brought in literally one outside free agent at this point, and that is Chris Rodriguez. Obviously, with your draft knowledge and how long you've been doing this, you studied Bashal Tutin and LaQuint Allen Jr. last year. So what's your thought about the Jaguar running back room? Have they done enough to replace Etienne by having that 3-headed monster, or do they maybe need to do something in the draft next month as well?
I think this is what they're going to go in with. I was a little surprised by the money for Rodriguez, but when you look at the cap increase and the percentage of cap, it's nothing out of the ordinary for a platoon running back. And to me, it kind of says signing Rodriguez, who has that experience with Liam Cohen at Kentucky, and Rodriguez had his best college season with Liam Cohen as his coach. I think it tells me that they're probably not going to look at running back in the draft. I mean, this running back class in the 2026 draft is weak. It's not great. I think Bashal Tutin would be maybe at worst the 3rd or 4th best running back in this class, and probably would have went higher in 2026 than he would have in 2025. So I think you already made that investment of a young running back. Now, if you draft a guy in round 3, round 4, then you got to make a decision. You're not cutting Rodriguez. You're not cutting Tutin. So are you going to try to stash LaQuint Allen on the practice squad? I don't think he makes it after you waive him. I think LaQuint Allen showed enough as a pass-catching running back that a team's going to grab him. So I think these are your 3, and I think they complement each other well. Rodriguez can do the short yardage work, churn out those tough yards. LaQuint Allen has the pass-catching chops. And I was a big fan of Bashal Tutin. I think he can be a 3-down running back. We saw him succeed in the short yardage area. We see the athleticism come out at times last year. I think this is a good group that you can build around. Maybe you don't have that primary running back like you had with ETN, but this is a group that I think can get the job done and the focus be on the passing game for the Jaguars.
You know, you and I last spoke over a month ago, so obviously some thoughts have changed, but the vibe that I still get from talking to people that cover the draft is maybe 15 to 18 first-round grades, but the meat of this draft is really going to be in day 2. And if that's the case, Shane, the Jaguars are in a decent spot with 4 day 2 selections.
Right. I think it's the ideal spot maybe to be in. I think this is a class that is certainly not top heavy. I think day 3 is going to be pretty barren of game-changing talent. You know, there's always going to be guys that emerge, but you'll have more players that are more backups, rotational players on day 3. So I think day 2 is a good spot, and I think the Jaguars have set themselves up with their needs being on the stronger side of this draft, which is the defense. We talked about linebacker. I think the D-line and secondary is a little bit stronger. I think we're seeing Gladstone understand the dynamics of the NFL draft and how to use free agency and the draft to work together to make the best team instead of just plugging holes and seeing what happens.
You know, the interesting thing, you look on the interior defensive line, Jacksonville probably has some needs there. I want to ask you about a couple of local guys. One would be Caleb Banks. I know we talked about him a little while ago, but since our last conversation, the news came out about the foot injury. I believe that's the second or third injury on the foot, which might send up a red flag for a guy that's 6'6", 320 pounds. How concerned are you with the foot injury for Caleb Banks, and could that make him fall a little bit in the draft?
I'm personally not concerned in terms of Caleb Banks' play, but it could make him fall in the draft. I think different teams view injury red flags differently. You know, doctors are going to look at his feet pretty extensively and already did at the combine. So you're going to get reports on that player. It's really going to depend how the Jaguars doctors ultimately, if they give the green flag in Caleb Banks, then I think you're open to taking him. I think some teams are not going to have him on the board at all. They think that foot could be a concern for re-injury going forward, and it's not worth taking Banks in the first round at that point. But, the excellent combine, the excellent Senior Bowl, the whole process Caleb Banks has aced throughout the offseason. He's my D-line 2 in this draft, and I think you could even make a good argument for him to be the top defensive tackle in this class, injuries aside.
Final moments, Shane Hallam of Draft Sharks. Another local defensive tackle, Daryl Jackson from Florida State. He's the guy that you see the Jaguars in some mocks taking in round number 3. I've talked to people that are high on Daryl Jackson, Shane. I've talked to people that are very lukewarm on Daryl Jackson. Where are you?
I'm probably in the lukewarm area for Daryl Jackson. I think what you get is just the huge wingspan, over 7 foot wingspan. You get the long arms. He really two gaps well. I think he's a solid player, but there's just not much room to me for Daryl Jackson to be a pass rusher up the middle. Too many times you see him be a little bit slow off the snap, getting his hands up there, and that can get him kind of moved around, especially in pass rushing. So I think Daryl Jackson's kind of a one-trick pony. I want him to fill 2 gaps, and he can do that pretty well. So if that's what you need, he can come in there on rundowns and do that. I just don't think you're getting a dynamic player, and that's what kind of round 3 into round 4 is for. This is a class that has some really good nose tackles. I think Jackson could bulk up a little bit and be a really solid one that's hard to move off his spot. But I don't think you're going to get a player who's going to be dynamic.
One more defensive line question. This is kind of like Jacob Rodriguez and Anthony Hill, who get mocked to Jacksonville a bunch. There's a defensive tackle from Oklahoma. Is it Grayson Holler that I've seen mocked to Jacksonville a bunch as well? What's your thought on him?
Yeah, he's kind of interesting. I think there's some upside with Grace Helton from Oklahoma. When you watched him this year, you saw a player with a kind of a full head of steam, who could get after the quarterback well, plays really low to the ground. I think Grayson Helton is kind of intriguing to me because of that explosion off the snap, kind of different from Daryl Jackson. So I think it's going to really depend on, for Jacksonville, what do they kind of want out of the defensive tackle they draft? Are you looking to really improve that run defense and get someone like a two gap, or do you want to take a chance on maybe someone like Grayson Helton isn't going to play every snap for you, but I can bring him in on third downs or second longs and, really get a player who can get after the quarterback, make a difference in the backfield, make a tackle for a loss. I think that's kind of really intriguing. He's under 300 pounds, but explosive.
You look at the Jaguar D-line room, Eric Armstead's not getting any younger, Devon Hamilton, Mason Smith, I guess, although he was a healthy scratch towards the end of last year. So certainly it appears interior D-line is a big, big need for the Jaguars. As we begin to say goodbye, Shane, tight end, I guess, as well, after Brenton Strange. I mean, they got Quentin Morris. They got Hunter Long. Johnny Munt has been released. So it appears tight end is probably a need. I don't think in round 2 or maybe round 3, but when you start getting into, round 4, round 5, are there any tight ends that catch your eye?
It's a deep group. I think it's a good year to need a number 2 tight end. I'm not sure there are a ton of number 1s, players, tight ends that are going to come in and be dynamic pass catchers or, these great two-way players. But day 3, round 4, I think would be an ideal spot. Someone like Marlon Klein from Michigan, who only started playing football very late in his high school career, super athletic, good blocker, just doesn't have a ton of experience. I think would be someone developing that kind of Quentin Morris mold. Oscar Delp from Georgia, who's moving up with a really good workout, but kind of an H-back type who can block, just needs to stay healthy. And if the injury red flags cause him to fall, I think he's super interesting. And then if you want, some more kind of athletic blockers, Joe Royer from Cincinnati or Josh Cuevas from Alabama, it's a pretty deep group. I think there's upwards of 20 tight ends that could get drafted in this draft, maybe even a couple more, at the end of the draft. So it's a good time to invest in one and see what you get.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Oscar Delp from Georgia. I would love that if the Jaguars found a way to get him next month. As we say goodbye, final question. James Gladstone, Shane, the Jaguars GM, made a little bit of news about a week and a half ago when he was talking about Devin Lloyd and ETN leaving, but getting the compensatory picks and how that was a big deal. And obviously he comes from Les Snead, and the Rams have made a living off of comp picks. The Jaguars already have 10 picks in the 2027 draft, 3 comp picks that they got for Greg Newsome, Lloyd, and ETN. What's your thought on that? Because there was a little blowback nationally from what Gladstone had to say.
Obviously, being a draft guy, I like having more picks. So I'm in the Gladstone version of things. I think you need to decide year to year how you want to approach, right? And I think that's what Gladstone was kind of articulating was like, hey, 2027 looks like a good draft. It would be a great draft to have those extra picks. The Jaguars don't have a ton of huge holes to fill in free agency, even as a contending team. So this is a good year to let those guys go, sign one minor free agent and build through the draft. And then I would guess next year that will flip. I think the Jaguars will probably be buyers in free agency, not worry about the comp picks, and that's the push for the Super Bowl, right? It will be 2027 because you already have those picks set up. So I think you just got to go year to year. I don't think it's something that you do every year. You're like, I'm never signing a free agent. But you can pick your battles. This year, free agency crop isn't great. The draft crop next year is good. Let's go for comp picks. And then the year after, you can completely flip that on its head.
Yeah, the Jaguars have some extensions they need to do as well. Trayvon Walker, Brenton Strange, Parker Washington among those. So we'll see if ultimately any of those get done prior to training camp. Shane Hallam of Draft Sharks. Shane, tell the good folks here in Jacksonville about Draft Sharks and the coverage that you'll have as the draft approaches.
Absolutely. Go to draftsharks.com. We have profiles on a ton of the skill position players. We have a free rookie guide. You just have to plug in your email and it'll get emailed to you. So great way to get comps for a lot of these players and get your draft and fantasy football information at draftsharks.com.
Shane Hallam of Draft Sharks. Shane, I know you're busy, man. Thank you for the time, and we'll talk again soon, pal.
No, thanks for having me.
And thank you to Shane Hallam of Draft Sharks for joining us tonight here on Hacker After Dark, taking a look at the NFL Draft, now well inside of a month away, April 23rd, 24th, and 25th. Look, we've talked to a lot of draft analysts, not only tonight, but all week, and we'll continue those conversations as we get continuously closer to the draft. But I think the one thing that is good for Jacksonville is positions that appear to be a weakness on the roster appear to be positions of strength in the draft. When you're talking about interior defensive line, you're talking about linebacker, you're talking about, potentially safety and cornerback. Primarily defensive positions are what the Jaguars are going to target. I said earlier this week, if there are 11 draft picks, I don't know if they'll keep all 11, but if they do, my over-under is probably 7 are going to go on the defensive side of the ball. So the fact that your needs are on defense, and it looks like a primarily heavy defensive draft class, is certainly good news for Jacksonville moving forward. So we certainly spent some time on that. We look back on a terrific year, number 1, for Liam Cohen and James Gladstone. But as the conversation now will grow as we get into the month of April and the guys return back to work, quite frankly, I believe April 20th is the first day of the offseason work program. It's about sustainability now, right? It's about, all right, we did it in year number 1 under Liam Cohen, James Gladstone, and Tony Baselli, but now it's about not being a one-hit wonder. And Liam Cohen made mention of that at that staff meeting back in February that they put on Jaguars.com. It's all about year 2. Year 1 was great, but what does it really mean if you come crashing back down to earth in year number 2? It's about sustaining what you did last year, and we will ultimately see if the Jaguars can do that. But that's where the conversation is going to turn pretty quick here. As hard to believe, once we get into the month of April, we can start saying at that point, they're on the field next month. They'll be on the field in May for OTAs and, of course, minicamp there in the month of June. Well, that will just about do it, man. Very, very busy Friday night edition of Hacker After Dark. We certainly appreciate you guys hanging out with us on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM, and we have a ton of people to thank. Thank you to Shane Hallam of Draft Sharks, always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Thank you to AJ Schulte, A to Z Sports.com. Always enjoy talking NFL and NFL Draft with AJ Schulte. And then back in hour number 1, Kevin Clark of ESPN and Omaha Productions. We talked a little Jaguars, a little draft, a little Orlando Magic. Also talked about the scholarship that the University of Central Florida is dedicating to the memory of Kevin's father, James, who was a 30-year history professor down there at UCF. For more information on that scholarship, just go to Kevin's Twitter handle, by Kevin Clark, and you'll get more information on that. But I know we have a lot of UCF alums here in Jacksonville, and certainly a very cool thing that UCF is doing to honor James Clark, who was a 30-year professor of history down there at the University of Central Florida. Now, we are off on Monday, a little family vacay. We'll be back on Tuesday night here on Hacker After Dark, and we do hope you join us beginning at 8 o'clock. Aaron Williams was your producer tonight. Aaron, great job as always. I'm the hacker, Ryan Green. And again, Jacksonville, thank you for spending not only your Friday night with us, but your entire week with us here on Hacker After Dark. As we always tell you, and we cannot possibly tell you enough how much we absolutely appreciate it. So for all of us here on HAD, have a terrific remainder of your Friday evening and a fantastic weekend. And I will talk to you again Tuesday night right here on Hacker After Dark beginning at 8 o'clock. Until then, good night, Jack.